Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre. This is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is Sparta!
All your days are belong to us.
It's a trap 9000!
Stop collecting all of us.
Leave Benny alone!
Leroy Dragon!
Objection! The balls are inert.
Time to Limousine Sedan.
And now it begins.
Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us here on Phoenix 92.5 FM and, of course, on our Twitch channel, Nerd Ducks or Nerd Snow Media over on twitch.tv, and our YouTube channel, Nerd Snow Media. My name is Darragh O'Connor, and I'm joined by lads. Introduce yourself.
Kieran Calico, I'm thrilled to be here. And
I am Kev.
We might be joined by Bryn. We don't know where Bryn is. So if he shows up and Zoom bombs us, then fair enough. If not, then we'll see him next week. But lads,
the cable tower's got him.
That's it. Later on in the show, or on the stream rather, we're going to be interviewing the main guy behind the anime lockdown panel, our director of operations, should I say, of the anime lockdown panel, and that's going to be at the start of the next hour. So if you guys are watching live, hang out. We're going to stream it, and if you're listening to it, we'll tack it on to the end of the show. Bryn has entered the building, so here he is here. There we go. Hey, Bryn. Oh, he'll show up. So this is the joys of live radio. Bryn, welcome to the show. You're on the air live and coming to us from San Francisco.
From San Francisco.
Yes.
Because somebody spent time and effort in Zoom backgrounds.
See, Zoom backgrounds are great, but they don't work with me because I either disappear into them completely or else it just can't read them. So I need a green screen at some point. But
that's too far now. See, this is the problem with Rule of Thirds. You just have trouble.
You just start getting consumed by the San Francisco Bay.
Here's the thing. When I was there, and I'm going to go see the Golden Gate Bridge, it was really hazy, so I was standing beside it, but I couldn't see it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It's right there. Why can't I see it? So, yeah, I was very upset, very underwhelmed by the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, namely because I couldn't see it. But
Bryn, could you do me a favor and, be somewhere else every time you start talking? Could you be on the moon next? Maybe there you go.
I'm in space now, so
actually,
I don't
know if you know what's going on, but the folks over on Lucasfilm uploaded a rake of their best Star Wars pictures.
Oh, they did not, did they?
And and you can do, and they're like, this is specifically for Zoom, so they can, you can do your Zoom call from the Emperor's throne room and stuff.
Oh no, I'm in Hoth. Watch out, everybody.
So welcome to the show, Bryn. And that's just his normal place. And now he's in a sunny beach, breaking quarantine.
It's just so great. I love it so much.
So yeah, we
on a podcast.
This is great for podcast listeners. It really is.
Yeah, it is. They're not.
This is why you watch the streams, guys. If you're listening to this on a podcast, go over and watch the streams, or else go to
exclusive content.
Exactly.
To be fair, one of the last times I was on, you were showing us pictures of cringy wrestlers, so there's always that ingredient.
This is fair. This is why you should hop over or watch the streams or join the YouTube channel because of massive like this. But yeah, guys, how's everybody been? How's everyone surviving? What'll probably be one of the second last week of quarantine or lockdown.
Yeah.
Bryn from Naboo, why don't you tell us first?
Yeah. So I've tried to keep myself busy with as many different things as possible, including getting active backgrounds for Zoom. I just put a thing into the WhatsApp group there where I set up a Linux terminal to use Spotify, which is so boring, but I love it so much.
So boring. It's so unnecessary, and this is coming from me.
Yeah.
So
it's ludicrous, and no one needs it, but I had to do it.
It does look pretty cool. I have to say.
Yeah.
My favorite Linux discovery of recent has been unmatched yet by Hannah Montana Linux. That's still.
I mean, BBN's pretty good, you know.
Aurora Borealis, really, at this time of day, at this part of the country,
localized entirely in your kitchen.
This time you can see it.
Exactly. Okay, so what we do have, actually, I don't know, last week we talked about it. Well, we made some crazy promises, and one of the crazy promises that we're going to, every episode we're going to review a season of The Simpsons. All right.
Yeah.
Now,
don't tell me I'm the only one that watched it.
No, I watched them.
I watched it.
But here's the thing, right? Bryn, even if you haven't watched it like recently, you've seen all these episodes.
Oh yeah.
I was shocked by how many of these episodes were actually like.
Oh, there's an episode. There's an episode in the first 12 seasons I haven't seen.
Yeah, but I actually like passionately hate the first season of The Simpsons.
Really?
Well, in theory, I do. Yeah, but then when I was watching it, I'm like, actually, there's some episodes here I like. It's just I hate the first few episodes, and then there's some that I actually really like.
Yep.
Yeah, it starts off like now. In saying that, this is definitely not a show that you're supposed to watch season to season sequentially.
Yep.
No.
Like, it's obvious it's a sitcom.
Yep.
But yeah, no, like definitely, like the first few episodes are really, really slow until I think it was Bart's Army was the first time I actually laughed.
Bart the General is that one.
Bart the General, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the joke was, but something in it. It was the first one that actually got me.
Was
well, look,
Herman gutting a dummy with a knife?
Yeah, no, the entire like military shop owner part. Okay, we need a declaration of war to make this official. From the Franco-Prussian War, it should do.
No, one thing that really strikes me about the first episodes, up until about Life on the Fast Lane or Homer's Night Out, it's very serious. Like, it's very, very serious. You know, like it's also very small. Like a lot of these episodes are quite not realistic, but they're very relatable. Like I think
the first episode is where they get Santa's little helper.
Yeah,
it was Christmas.
Yeah.
Homer tries to kill himself in one of these episodes as well.
Yeah.
And like it is not played as like any sort of a joke. He's
doing it. Like
he has wrapped a boulder around him, and he's.
But that's how he becomes obsessed with safety and becomes the safety inspector.
Yeah.
It's so it's so great.
And Lisa has an existential crisis, and like Marge has to give her the Frozen advice of like trying to hide your feelings and smiling all the time.
Yeah, the Bleeding Gums Murphy episode I remember being one of the better ones of this season.
Oh yeah, man! Bleeding Gums episode is so great.
Right, so let's just keep it. Let's keep it sequentially, right? So
good idea.
So the start of it is like the first 4 episodes are Simpson roasting open fire, Bart the Genius, Homer's Odyssey, There's No Disgrace Like Home, and Bart the General, right? So the first
and to be fair, Bart the Genius is kind of the first episode because
it's the first real episode.
Was a special when they were still shorts, like
like it's I was shocked by how quickly the show took off as far as like it found its footing very, very quick. But those first 2 episodes, they're okay. They're not great. And there's a lot of reuse content as well from the shorts that have been redone in Bart the Genius. Homer's Odyssey is the first one that has like all new content straight away. But here's the thing as well. Homer gets kicked out by Marge like 3 or 4 times in this season alone. And it starts off with Homer's Odyssey, and then by Bart the General we go a bit crazy. Guys, what do you think about the first couple episodes?
I mean, I remember when I was much younger, I loved Bart the Genius. I loved that whole story and the idea that like he fobbed his way into a genius school. And I watched it because I didn't have, unfortunately, like I had a bunch of birthdays and stuff to work on this week, so I just didn't get to the Simpsons episodes. But I think I watched that episode about 5 months ago,
right?
And it's strange because I just didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I did when I was younger. I think it's just like it didn't seem as joke heavy as I remember it being, if that makes sense.
There's a lot of nostalgia goggles. That is really like not a problem, but it's a thing that happens in this. And like you're watching it and you're just like, wait, I remember this being different than it was. And
that's a fair point, but like I think is it who's Super Eye Patch Wolf doesn't it break down of the context of when The Simpsons was made? And to be fair, this was made to be a reaction to just how sanitized all the sitcoms of the 80s were. Those sort of
it was
family nuclear family type thing. So you kind of have to take it with that we're trying to be edgy and sort of dark on purpose as well, you know?
Like
absolutely.
It's trying to build a dysfunctional family,
yeah.
but they haven't quite got their footings on how to make that funny. So it just seems awkward
and bleak. Like,
and then on top of that, adding in the incredibly off-kilter animation at the time.
See, that's the
thing, just kind of it just starts to be uncomfortable at points.
That's the thing that really bugs me, and that's what I hate about certain. But it's weird. It's not like sequential episodes that bug me. Like at random points, the one that really kind of just gets me is Homer's Nights Out, and the animation in the Call of the Simpsons where they get lost in the wild with the RV.
Oh yeah.
The animation in that is it's god awful. But it's like it was the first kind of trial run of what they were kind of doing. But when I was watching this back again, I wasn't expecting the episodes to be as enjoyable as they actually are. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, just on the animation, sorry to cut across you there, Bryn, but like when I see the HD Simpsons just flicking through the TV, I get really sad. I don't mind if the animation's a bit rough. If it felt like it was drawn by someone who cared, maybe on a budget. Like, I like that aspect to it,
There's something to the hand-drawn effect of it.
Yeah.
You know? Like...
Sorry, do you want to go ahead?
No, that's kind of...
See, I think with... Coming from, because obviously, you know, the shorts were in incredibly scratchy style. Because like there's the whole story of Groening going in with the hand drawing on the napkin after him vlogging in the meeting room. So like the shorts were that specifically like that weirdo, like, you know, heavy character style. And I think they were kind of going for obviously a softer thing for the show, but then it was still in that kind of surrealist realm before they really kind of tightened up just more to the character design. And again, like it works when the jokes actually land, but when they don't, it comes off as kind of weird and awkward.
I quite like the surreal. Like, I'm looking at the episodes now. In Bart the Genius, you have him trying to do sums in his head, and he's like imagining people on a train, and then it goes to really strange places, and like you've got a few sequences like that. Like
you can also tell how much of a love they had for like horror in that way as well.
Yes,
and probably what led them to start doing the Treehouse of Horrors.
There's a lot of horror in this season.
Like the whole sequence with like Nelson as like kind of a Goliath that cannot be.
Yes, that was going to be the next one. Yeah.
But not
or the whole sequence where he looks at them in the car and they're all demons as they're coming away from the Burns picnic.
But not even that, right? But there's also like full-on horror stories in this, with Some Enchanted Evening being the obvious one, where they have a child bandit.
Oh, yeah. I remember being really freaked out with that when I was younger.
She's still freaky, man. She's still really, really freaky. And it was like that uncomfortable thing. But even like jumping ahead a bit to Mo and Lisa, the Call of Simpsons, Telltale Head, and the Fast Lane. Telltale Head has those weird kind of surrealist moments too. I really like those kind of dream sequences thing where the head was talking and it's play on.
Well, that's a bit more Edgar Allan Poe, which leans into the Treehouse of Horror thing with the Raven and all that, you know.
Exactly, yeah. Like you can see the influences kind of swirling around while they're trying to find what the show actually is. And then by the time you get to Homer's Night Out, crepes of rats.
Yeah.
Please don't tell anyone how I live.
Krusty gets bus.
Oh god! Shout out to Frankiac and the best web application available.
Brilliant. So Homer's Night Out, crepes of rats, Krusty gets busted, and Some Enchanted Evening. So that's kind of rounded out, and by the end of it, with the exception of Crepes of Rat, which still kind of feels like a very, very early episode, like earlier on, those three episodes, the last two episodes, they feel like The Simpsons.
Yeah.
That's where I think those like your probably the two funniest episodes in the run.
Yeah.
But it's the one thing that like even just reading through the list of it, like some of these are like some of my favorite stories in The Simpsons. Like not necessarily the funniest stories, but like I mean, Life in the Fast Lane is an awesome, awesome story where Marge almost gets tempted by the smoothest bowling player in the world.
Yeah.
You'll never see again. Jacques. Jacques should come back.
No, he He has a background cameo in the one where Homer is a bowling team.
Yeah,
with,
he does. Yeah,
what's the name of that team? The Home Wreckers and Lurleen Lumpkin.
The
Home Wreckers.
He's on the Home Wreckers.
My favorite joke in that whole thing was when she's like dreaming about going to his apartment. It's this Art Deco style, but with bowling apparel. Because it's kind of the only thing she knows about him. And he's French and he bowls.
And there's lovely touches like the moon is a bowling ball when they're like in the car and all that. But that's what I like about the first season. They still feel like characters, and they've got permission to be cruel. Like there's no disgrace like Home, like where they're all zapping each other in the chairs, and like, you know, I'm looking at this from the perspective of it being sanitized later. I was laughing in spite of some of the amazingly offbeat things Homer would never say now, you know?
Yeah.
I remember that basically from Die Hard, though, as well, because that clip is in Die Hard for some reason.
Oh, Die Hard 2,
when they're on the plane. I'm like, that's weird, but it fits. And
Which clip? I've never seen Die Hard 2.
There's like the panning shot of all of them being in the electric chairs.
Oh yeah.
And because like it's like basically they had to put something on the plot of Die Hard 2 has everyone on has a bunch of people on this airplane, and they're just circling overhead. Yeah. So they just go, screw it, we have to do something. So they like tune into a TV station to put on The Simpsons. So they're just everyone's just sitting down watching The Simpsons at one point, and you just see that panning shot.
And it would make sense because Die Hard 2, I think, was released in 1990 anyway. So,
yeah. But it's just like, I mean, that whole sequence is like probably one of the most iconic little sequences from like one of the early iconic moments where like everyone's just zapping each other, and then Matt starts doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like again, I'm still looking through the lists and things, but it felt like every story in the first series was a story where the characters like underwent a thing and changed and all that kind of stuff. Like the only one that doesn't have a major change of some kind is the one where they get lost in the forest, from what I'm looking through here. Like,
yeah, well, there is a bit of a change there. It brings the family together.
Yeah, I suppose it's Maggie and the Bears, I suppose.
Well, it's not even that. So just like, that's the last one I watched before we started live. It sets it up for Homer's trying to compete with Flanders, like very much so, and he's broke, and they lose everything. Like literally, it all goes in a big fiery pit, and he's trying to prove something to Bart that he's like not a failure and like that. And he overcomes it. Like at one point, he screams, "I just murdered my entire family," and it gets echoed around the entire thing. It's just like even though that's like the craziest that this show kind of goes in this season, everything is still relatively relatable, with the exception of the Crepes a Rat, where Bart goes to France and Homer gives nuclear secrets to a terrorist.
Yeah, from
Albania.
But like, I like the fact that like
Sparrow,
yeah. But like, even looking at the good stories in season 2, it felt like every character had a very big low point. Like you had Bart crying in the streets and learning French. You had like Homer having to go in his little redemption arc and Homer's night out. Like you said, life on the fast lane earlier. Marge kind of making her decisions, like, and Homer sort of piecing it together at home. Like, I don't know. You could argue they're not as funny, but when I'm watching them, I can't not pay attention to them. It feels like there's real stakes.
Well, it's weird.
When you get to it later on, like, I don't know, Principal and Paddy going out and stuff, they're starting to get into the story of the week type thing, if you know what I mean.
Well, here's a weird thing, right? Like, before I watch this again, my sister's favorite season is this season 1. I didn't really understand why, because when I'd watch them again, I'd always skip season 1,
Yeah.
When I watch Simpsons, it's season 2 to 12, and then I'm kind of good. But now it makes sense. I'm like, these are the most human stories.
Yeah, and it's in season 2, but the first season 2 episode is Bart gets an F, and that feels like a big holdover from series 1 in terms of its tone,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Like I was struck at how sympathetic Bart was in these early seasons before he becomes like a tyrant.
Yeah,
like he's definitely a troubled child in this, but like at the end of every episode where he does something, he always has that moment where he's like, I've done the bad and I feel awful.
The telltale head, the telltale head. Sorry for cutting across you there, lads, but the telltale head is literally that. Like he's really messed up here. Like this is serious business. Like it's There's no coming back from this, and he knows it. And that's like the whole point of the episode.
Well, I remember,
like, even as far back as like as Bart the General, like when Nelson, like, he is depressed after getting like his ass kicked by Nelson because he's being bullied. And like it genuinely like kind of it shows like this is terrorizing him.
Well, it shows that there's like even for a kid who's shown to be a troublemaker, that there are limits that he wouldn't go to, and that there are limits that, like, you know, even with as far as he could go as being a troublemaker in the past, he would never go as far as Nelson does.
Exactly. And like, Keen, you want to get in there?
Oh no, I was just going to say, as in regards to Bart, I remember in showing my age here, in a documentary that went out on the 10-year anniversary of The Simpsons, that Matt Groening said that when he did season 1 and season 2, he was writing from the point of view of Bart, and then around season 2 or 3, he had a kid, and then he got it, and then the protagonist became Homer.
Yeah, that's actually a similar thing that happened with South Park, where when they started writing the show, they wrote more as the boys, and then as they became parents, then they wrote more as Randy.
Randy, yeah.
And that's why Randy had. Yeah, and that's when like Randy started getting pretty much every single good line in the show.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, like, it's weird, right? Because the Simpsons, who's the main character? Would you say? Because later on, it is Homer, right? Is the main character.
I feel like
Bart
it has
early seasons.
Bart in the first season, certainly.
You think?
Yeah.
I think
I'd say even season 2.
Because like you look at Lisa, and like she is
Lisa
not
gets nothing. Lisa
she gets nothing, and
she's a big character almost.
And she's not the perfect kind of, you know, I'm trying to think of the right word for it, like kind of global cause supporting.
She's not annoying as hell. She's not annoying. She's actually,
I wouldn't go that far, but she's sort of, in the first season, she exists as a contrast to Bart because she's a bit more book smart. But there's also,
there's one part that sums up Lisa's role very well. There's one scene, should I say?
Yeah.
It's in The Crepes a Rat, right? Where Homer is like absolutely loving Emil, and he's like, it's so great, so great. And Homer says something like, the problem with this family was we know his piston wasn't firing on the truth, you know?
Yeah.
Then Lisa's like, the actual quote is, your paper tin responsibility or loyalty to your children is astonishing.
It's astonishing.
She gets up and walks out, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's Lisa. That's brilliant. Like, in that it shows she's smarter than the rest of them, but not a total cow.
For an analog, she was basically Brian Griffin in early Family Guy.
Yeah,
where
correct.
It's just like
correct.
Where she's like the intellectual center of the show. Where you go, well, this is like the perceptive character who understands how everyone else operates.
Like, because I'm looking through the list now. The first proper Lisa as Lisa episode is Homer versus Lisa and the Eighth Commandment, which is well into series 2. Like, you know,
it's deep in season 2.
I mean, you've got the saxophone one early on, but that's still like
that's kind of almost more Homer in some way.
Yeah.
Like, kind of show, in showing how he can kind of drop the ball as a dad. So it's less of kind of her arc. Now she's obviously has her part in it.
Yeah.
Well, she's kind of like the principal character, but she's not really who's driving the plot along.
Her and Marge kind of share that bit role status where they're definitely supporting characters and they're involved, but you know, it kind of does set the tone for the season, for the series rather, as a whole. When it's a Marge story, it is what it is. When it's a Lisa story, it is what it is. But I think they're both really strong. Like, everyone in this comes out feeling like a family that you know. Or a hyper realistic family that you know, with some there are some zany bits in it. Now with the animation, they really do take advantage of the animation, doing some zany things. But overall, a lot of this stuff doesn't feel like it's a cartoon, you know. It's more just kind of like the medium of cartoon.
Well, that was one of the rules in the writing room for the first 6 or 7 years. I think they said that you weren't allowed to do something that can't be done in reality. And I remember that because the first time they broke that rule was Leonard Nimoy was in the monorail episode, and they broke the rule to have him beam out at the end.
Right.
Like, you know, my work here is done. You didn't do anything, didn't I?
But see, like, you know, and we will get to. I'm looking forward to like the golden era of The Simpsons. I think that's going to be something that, you know, we're all going to enjoy because we quote from it all the time. But to wrap this whole thing up, would you go back to season 1 if you had to? Like, we'll start with.
Oh, I would, and I think you're underselling the humor. Like, there's some gems I forgot about. Like,
okay, yeah, but go for it. Because as I said, it's not my personal favorite one. It's not one that I have much love for. So yeah, go on. What are some?
One of the jokes that made me laugh the hardest was the first Bleeding Gums Murphy one, and Lisa's obviously depressed, and she's like, "I thought playing saxophone would make me happy," and he goes, "The blues isn't about making people happy. It's about making other people feel worse." Like, and making some money while you're at it. Like, it almost catches you off guard when they get a really good line in, you know?
Yeah, well, and the writing is really sharp, though. That's the thing. Like, it's satirical. Like, it is satirical. Like, that's the difference. It's not like a straight comedy. This is a satire of what we would see, you know, on shows like Family Ties. Or, Full House or something like that, you know, where they have these kind of these nuclear families where everything's perfect. So what's the opposite of that? Well, everything's terrible or everything goes wrong. And in every single one of these episodes, something goes wrong. You know, they really do have a bad run of it. Like, it's pretty horrible when you think about it. Like, there's something every single episode here, something happens to the Simpsons.
And it's like, you can see what they're going for in the 4th episode, No Disgrace Like Home, when they're looking around other people's houses, looking in the windows of these perfect families. That is very, very clearly signposting what they're trying not to be, you know?
To be fair, that, you know, when he's going around looking at other families, that's something that your parents would actually do. That's the thing. They're like, look, you're terrible. Look at these. They're not terrible.
Look at these perfect people.
Exactly.
We can't hear what they're saying, but we know they're perft. Look at them.
It's like, look at them. Exactly, you know, and that's very relatable. It's one of those things where you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's the kind of humor. It's not as out there on the nose, but when I was watching this, my perception was this would be a show that would have continued for as long as it did if it had stayed like this. So you can see transitioning where they do go. Kind of, you see why they went there, because this got old very quickly.
Yeah. Well, then,
like, I think watching 2 more seasons of this probably... Sorry, man. Watching about 2 more seasons of this probably would have actually started just getting upsetting.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think it would have like skirted the line into just being a depressing show.
Yeah, I think there's only so far you can just make these characters go through tragedy.
Yeah. Like, it wouldn't be long before Homer's a complete alcoholic, and Marge has left him. The kids don't speak to him anymore, and like.
But like Homer's alcoholism, you know, to put a finer point on it, it makes sense. You know, it makes sense. It's
controversial. He broke Bart's piggy bank to get a beer when he was unemployed.
But, you know, actually, the thing about it is, and watching that one, I'm like, topical. This is kind of scary, you know, to watch it now. It's like...
It's funny how things that become exaggerated later on are actually treated as what they are early on, you know.
Yeah, like that whole depiction of being unemployed and losing his job and all kind of stuff, and the depression slump where it's day and night, you know, that doesn't really matter. You're like, yeah, you know, that's something that you can relate to. But again, like, if this was like the arc of the show, or if this was how the show went, it would be it would like BoJack Horseman.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
That is a good point of comparison, actually. Yeah.
Like, I know people who can't watch BoJack Horseman because it's so harrowing, and I get that. Like, it's not a fun show to watch. Now, it's a good show, but it's not a fun show to watch. And you know, I would say, like, when we're looking at season 2, I think we'll be a bit more jovial. But for now, it's like, man, yikes! I'm glad the world stopped shitting on the Simpsons.
Well, can I ask something to the panel then? If by all means, take a minute to get the episodes out in front of you. If you had to pick a best and a worst, or a favorite or a least favorite, whichever way you want to, which would be your favorite? Bart, general, your favorite would be?
Yeah, Bart. Yeah, I'm seconding that.
Yeah, I think I like Bart. I like Bart the General for favorite, but I also really enjoy Crepes of Wrath and also hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I think
followed very closely, actually, probably by Krusty Gets Busted. I really enjoyed that.
Yes,
Krusty Gets Busted, so great.
The animation in that though is awful as well, particularly around Krusty. Here's the thing, Smithers. Here's one thing I had to say it, because if I didn't say it, people are going to be, you know. Smithers is a black guy.
Yeah.
And four episodes later, he's a white guy. It's like,
I remember that he was black. I thought that was for the whole season. The fact that changed 3 episodes in.
That was the thing. I was watching. I'm like, wait, I thought this happened in season 2.
Oh no, there was
changes straight away.
There was more than one. No, there was more than one point where like skin color was a fluid concept across like this season.
And
like,
hair color.
There's a couple of
cuts. Mo's the same. Yeah,
Mo's a bit the same. Yeah. Like in Bart the General.
Barney's blonde as well.
Barney.
Yeah.
Like in Bart the General, the two like Nelson's lackeys. There's cuts where the two of them are yellow, the two of them are black. One's black, one's like they're just between things.
Oh, wait until you get to Dancing Homer in series 2 when they're at the end of the Capital City song. Marge's dress changes to Lisa's dress for like a split second, and it's really noticeable. Go look it up after this. When they go Capital City, yeah, her like it's full on Lisa's body just pops onto Marge's body for a sec.
There was one very strange little point actually. I think it was the first one. I think it was the first episode where they were in the Christmas pageant, and the first time you see Lisa and she's in the Polynesian
She's doing
thing,
the fire thing.
Yeah,
she's not wearing pants. That's weird.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Actually, here's a weird thing. Right, when I was a kid, I remember having the Simpsons book, like that episode in a book.
Yeah.
Like it was just like a picture book, and it was the whole episode. And if anyone else remembers that, please contact the show because
this is the Christmas episode, is it?
Christmas episode. It was in an actual book, and like it must have just been out because like I was born like basically my entire life has been The Simpsons. I think I was born like a year before it came out, so I don't remember a time when The Simpsons didn't happen. And you guys are the same because you guys are younger than me, but like we don't really remember how big it was as such, but we just remember it being on RTE too. And
I remember being because I was born in 1990 when The Simpsons was just getting going. I remember being young enough that I'd watch the couch gag at the start, think in my 3-year-old brain, "Oh, that's The Simpsons," and then turn it off.
Yeah,
because like, what else would be in The Simpsons? Like, there's the bit where they run into the couch and a Monty Python footsteps on them. The end.
That's fair.
And I wouldn't find out for 10 years that's the Monty Python film.
It's weird. Like we
have
a
whole broader world is opened up.
We haven't got to the point yet where Simpsons starts doing references, and then there's stuff that either educates us or ill-educates us, or puts references on movies that we haven't seen yet. That hasn't happened. I was looking out for it because I'm going to say,
okay.
The cultural osmosis hasn't quite kicked in yet.
No, not yet.
Actually,
not yet.
I also noticed kind of the lack of couch gag for something that's so synonymous with The Simpsons.
One doesn't even have a couch gag. Bart,
there were so many episodes where they just didn't have really an intro sequence.
Yeah.
But like the couch gag was pretty much always just one of them popping off the couch.
Yeah, that was it.
I think there's
It hasn't
one episode that has a proper gag when the couch falls apart, but that's it.
That was it. Yeah, but there was a thing made out of it. Like it was like even watching that, I noticed that too, and it was just like they stopped, looked at each other, and then kept going.
Yeah.
And that was weird,
it's just funny that something that's so synonymous with the show just didn't really kick off until like
it's just like such a humble beginning for what would become like the institution.
I bet you could make a really good case for tracking the progress of The Simpsons just by watching the couch gags from each new season.
Who wants to think that?
By season 25, they're like 2 minutes long and they're HD effects and all that malarkey, you know?
King, you know what that sounds like to me?
Media.
That sounds like somebody just volunteered to track the couch gags.
If Grim falls asleep early enough,
your
I'll do it.
dissertation on my desk by Wednesday.
Oh, a frame-by-frame analysis.
And don't forget to show your work.
It's funny, actually. I remember my dad saying there's one from like season 4 where like they get to the couch gag and like it was a circus popped up behind them, like the elephants and stuff, and he used to say, "Oh, that's the worst one. That's not funny." And like 2 decades have passed. That's looking pretty good now.
Like, to be fair, you know, and we probably will talk about that as we go on, like as our tolerance go. I swear, like, I'm not going to put you through what I sat through where I watched from season 16 to 20. They're the darkest of the dark. I
think I watched them. Yeah,
that's a punishment in some countries, you know. So, but everything after that's okay. But
if I'm not mistaken, I think there was relatively recent in the first in the last 2 years where I remember somebody posting about how the 2 French guys from Perhaps a Wrath come back.
Oh, no way.
Well, I mean, they bring back the guy who owns Santa's Little Helper back.
No,
they bring back Lurleen Lumpkin.
From season 30, they start doing references. This is why season 30 is amazing, and I hate when people bash it. They actually bring back references to old shows. They reference this is why I think this is going to end soon, because they're properly doing an Avengers Endgame thing where they're referencing old episodes.
I think I haven't seen it yet, but hasn't Disney released its first Simpsons Maggie short?
I haven't seen it yet.
They have, yeah.
I think they're going to pivot it or change it somehow now.
What, to age them up and have a different show?
I think they're either going to change it so like maybe Maggie's the main character or do like one of those soft reboot type things. Considering Disney has sort of what it did with Star Wars and what it does with the properties it buys, it wouldn't surprise me if they tried something like that.
To be fair, that's like, look, they're not going to stop making Simpsons episodes, but they're also the cast are like getting up there, and they're also raking in millions of money per episode. So it just makes sense now to kind of pivot. And look, if it works, it works. Like, for example, Frasier was a split of Cheers, and Frasier's better than Cheers. So
yeah,
it could work. It all depends.
That's probably why the Krusty Gets Cancelled is probably my favorite for Sideshow Bob's cavalcade of whimsy.
Yes, yes, it's brilliant. Like,
Sideshow Bob, one of the best characters. Iron Mask, yeah.
So look, we're getting to the 5 to break here. We have an interview coming up later, guys. So if you're watching on the stream, hang out for like 10 minutes. We'll be back on. If you're listening to this on Phoenix 92.
Take the kettle on.
Yeah, exactly. Go have a drink. We listen to this on Phoenix. We're going to take a break. We'll be back after the break with the director of the lockdown panel. So we will talk to you in a few minutes. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Are you a nerd? Do you like hearing about a bizarre range of topics from the world of nerd? Does your heart and hairstyle still belong in the nostalgic 90s? Are you a sucker for spooky weirdo things? Well, whether you're a hardcore nerd or a vanilla ice baby, Straight Outta Canto is the podcast radio show for you! Straight Outta Canto, that's Kanto, Ireland's #1 show for nerd culture, nightmares, nostalgia, and more. Straight Outta Canto.
Alright, so you're listening to the podcast, you're like, hey, I'm not in Ireland, how do I get in touch? Well, TuneIn has you covered. That's how you can check us out live when we're on the radio. You go to TuneIn and download the app, or you can check out the live streams on nerdtoknowmedia.com or Phoenix 92.5 FM. If you want to get in contact with us, it's very easy. Nerd to Know Media everywhere. Nerd to Know Media on Twitter, Nerd to Know Media Instagram, Nerd to Know Media on Twitch, Nerd to Know Media at gmail.com if you want to reach out via email. Hope to hear from you soon.
Welcome back to the Nerd to Know Media podcast. My name is Cian O'Callaghan, and we are joined by a special guest today, or tonight, depending on where you're listening from. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, I'm John-Paul. I am one of the members of the Anime Lockdown team.
Yes, and we are very excited to talk to him because we will be appearing at the Anime Lockdown ourselves. But first, were you one of the founding members of the Anime Lockdown then?
Yes, this was an idea that I had about 3 weeks to a month ago, just seeing all the conventions shutting down, seeing friends that were bummed out about having conventions shutting down. And it just was like a random idea I had one night. I said, hey, what if we have our own convention? What if we just have a couple of panels? Like, we all do panels anyway. Why don't we just talk to our friends, see if they want to present, and see what we can put together? And it got bigger faster than I expected, and so I had to enlist the help of some friends. My good friend Tony is talking to vendors, and then my friend Chris is handling all the scheduling.
That's excellent. And I must say, I completely understand where you're coming from, because right as all of this kind of shutdown started happening, myself and my fiance Stevie, we had a full... I'm not sure if you've seen the show Mandalorian costume thing ready to go. We had an IG-88 built and a Baby Yoda costume for our baby. So it was crushing when all of that suddenly ground to a halt. So I think it's a brilliant idea that you've come up with this. And I've got to ask, what kind of submissions have you had so far?
I've got the schedule up right now. We have a few panels on Pokemon. We have one on the history of Shonen Jump. We have one that showcases sports anime with the approach that a lot of people don't like sports anime, so this is to convert them, presumably. Right, yeah. We have a few panels that I haven't announced. We have about five guest panels that I'm going to announce on Friday. We have an animator showcase. We have one on the anime business. Forgive me if I get this wrong. Are you guys the one doing the Doki Doki Literature Club panel?
That's us. That's us.
That's
us.
us.
You just spot us at 20 paces, can you?
So it's a good variety. There's hopefully we have a lot of robot fans, because there's a lot of robot panels.
Right.
There might be 4 or 5.
The Gundam base.
There is a Gundam panel.
There had to be. It wouldn't be a con without an over-representation of Gundam anyway, particularly with anime.
And funnily enough, before we started recording, actually, we were talking about kind of foot traffic and kind of getting people interested and turning up and all that kind of stuff. But how, compared to, say, hypothetically, just inviting people to a convention in a building somewhere, what has been your approach to getting people excited to attend an online con, if you know what I mean?
Mostly just not shutting up on social media. That's really been the key.
Yeah, you guys are very, very active on social media. Like our
you crossed an ocean.
That's true. Lisa, who does the panel, doing the Pokemon panel, and she does Straight Out Kanto here. She's like, "Oh my god, guys, you got to apply for this," and we're like, "What's this?" Yeah. So like you reached over, international waters and time zones to bring us in. So that's amazing. And I have to say, when it was announced, my first thought was, that's a brilliant idea. I can't believe no one came up with it first. Before you. So fair play, because it's like, as Keen said, like the reason why you had the Mandalorian stuff ready to go was because we were supposed to be doing a panel at Dublin Comic Con the day that everything kind of shut down.
Yeah,
literally. So
I do want to make something clear. We're not the first people to do this. I don't want to take any credit for that. There was actually an anime convention about a month ago called OnCon. This weekend, there's going to be one called QuaranCon. We're just allowed online presence.
Fair.
But I don't want to misrepresent that.
Well, perhaps not, but you are certainly the only one. We've been looking actively, and you're the only one that's come up on our radar.
In Ireland, so you're the one that kind of hit us.
Yeah.
So as you said, look, you might not be the first guys to come up, but you're definitely the most successful. So.
I hope so.
It is what it is. Well, we hope so too. We're excited to. One, I didn't expect to get a response from you, so thank you for that. And we're all very excited to kind of see how it works because the way we do the show here is over Zoom anyway, so it's kind of strange. It's not anything different for us, but doing a panel in a different way, it's a unique experience which we didn't think we'd be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And can I ask, has there been any surprising challenges? I know you've said off the air that you've got a lot of radio experience, but has there been any surprising challenge about organizing this so far then?
Keeping my anxiety in check has been a big challenge, especially once we started talking to guests. There's a few things that I'm going to announce that I never imagined were going to happen, and it took a while to calm down from that. Like, okay, now this is real. There's no turning back. This has to happen. We can't mess it up. We've been talking about it for weeks now. That's really the biggest challenge because, like, other than that, it's sending emails, it's pushing buttons.
And I suppose, sorry to cut across you there, but I'm going to ask you a normie question. Sure. Why an anime convention? If it could hypothetically be anything, why a convention on anime? Why did that jump out at you?
That's what I've always attended. I've been an anime fan for a long time. Every year I would go to this anime convention in Minnesota called Anime Detour, and then I moved to New York, and so now I'm going to the East Coast conventions like Anime NYC, Otakon, Anime Next. It's just what I know.
Right.
I have more of a specialty in that realm. I could have made it more open, say this is just a geek event, but I think it helps that I also know what a lot of these people are talking about.
Yes.
While I'm not an expert, I know what Gundam is. I know what Pokemon is.
Fair.
Whereas if I said, hey, let's do a geek convention, and somebody wanted to talk about some obscure book, I wouldn't know if they made that up or if it's an actual book.
Right.
That's I think you're right to zone in on that because you could have made it broader, but like if it's anime, the waifus will turn up, and like I think a lot of like at the risk of generalizing, a lot of people who are into anime and the Japanese culture are quite internet savvy. So I think certainly in this household, we've been looking forward to this for ages. So like, thank you for giving us something to be excited about during these times.
Yeah, I'm happy to help.
I've seen something as well from obviously going to cons and doing panels and stuff at cons. It seems like the anime focused ones are always the more I don't want to say better because but they're definitely the more intense. Like your audience is more kind of like they know what's going on. They're more receptive. It's
I think they have more of a community though.
Exactly, yeah. It's a more community feel than a larger one. Like and that's what from going to them you can see. You know, you go to something that's smaller. There is that community base where, you know, as you said, everyone kind of knows what they're talking about, and everybody kind of is there to have a good time and share stuff. It's a good atmosphere. That's why I'm kind of interested to see how it translates over the internet. I'm sure it's going to be excellent.
I'd agree with that because I've been to more open geek conventions, and part of why I stopped going is because I felt out of place.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I liked Game of Thrones and I liked Doctor Who, but I don't know I don't even know what crowd to say. There, it gets a lot more branched out. Whereas at an anime convention, like we're all on the same page. We may not like all the same shows, but we're all on the same page.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I think you're right, because we've had panels at so far at the big Comic-Con and then Shuricon and what's the other one, Kev? What that used to be, Airticon?
JCon.
JCon, yes. And there's such a different feeling. Like, the Comic-Con is fun, but it's like being at Disneyland. It's just crazy and overwhelming. But like those more specialized ones, you're right, everyone's kind of on the same page, and there's a nice atmosphere, and you feel like you can just go up and talk to people, and it's not a threatening thing, which is absolutely lovely, you know?
Yeah, when you focus it on just anime, everyone's kind of, everyone, as you were saying, everyone's on the same page. Plus, for the most part, anime fans, they just know how to get weird. So it's all out there. It's all on the level. You know, you're standing in a room and there is just a naked woman on a body pillow 10 feet above you. Like,
well,
you're not holding anyone to anything at this point.
You don't question it.
It's like, oh, that's cool. I have her sister at home. Yeah, it definitely gets weird. It's gonna be a little different at this because it's online.
Yeah.
But certainly a lot of the same people are going to be viewing it.
But on that point there, John-Paul, it's what were some of the challenges? No, I've kept up with your blog where it's the technical side of things where you had to put new RAM in your streaming PC and stuff. What have some of the challenges been about the actual physical setting of this up? Like, can you give us an idea how it's going to run, or how you're actually streaming it, or what's going on?
I mean, most of it is just doing test after test after test. So early on, I did a few Twitch tests where I just streamed video for 8 hours a day to see if I even had a stable connection.
Right.
And when those were all successful, I'm like, okay, cool. I found a bit rate that I'm comfortable with. So then I stopped thinking about that for a while. And then somebody said, well, what if you streamed to Facebook and YouTube? I'm like, oh, well, that's an idea. What if I do stream to Facebook and YouTube? So I've been testing that out now, where I have a restreaming app called Restream, where you stream to them and then they split it up across multiple platforms.
Wow.
And I was able to successfully run that app for 20 hours straight without any problems. I did learn some interesting things. So
like in the 20th hour, it just starts exploding. And
oh, no. So each of these platforms has different time limits for how long you can stream.
Really?
Twitch is 48 hours. YouTube is 12 hours. Facebook is 8 hours.
All right.
Well, that's going to be a problem because our event runs for, I believe, 14 hours.
Yeah.
So the Twitch stream can stay on, but the Facebook and YouTube at some point are going to need to get reset.
Right.
Well, people need to know about that. I also did a recording test because I'm going to keep a local archive of the video. I wanted to see, is my computer going to blow up if I try to record for 20 hours straight?
Yeah.
Turns out it's fine. And OBS is actually really, really good at this. The second I hit stop recording, I could already watch the file, which was incredible.
Awesome. That's so good.
That's amazing. That's better than what had just happened before we recorded. We had to wait 10 minutes.
I was going to say, would you mind sending all this information on to Dara literally as soon as we wrap up?
That would be great.
But also just learning about the different types of software that people want to present with. Learning how to display PowerPoint and make it look attractive on a stream was something that I had to learn how to do. Turns out it's really easy to do. I just didn't know about the submenus and how to do it. Now I do.
Sure. That's cool.
Learning how to make a programming guide. That's something I did yesterday. I've never designed a magazine before. Now I can essentially say that I have.
Look, what's it? Necessity is the mother of invention, and that's kind of literally what's happened here. You know, where this was kind of people had to learn how to do things. You know, like, and it's not just with that. It's anything social. Like even the program we're using here is, you know, has taken over the world, you know, in that sense. So it's crazy, you know. But what can people expect as far as what are you like most excited for over the weekend? Because it's 3 days, so.
Yes. I'm most excited to see how the turnout is. Honestly, like there's a lot of really cool panels. I don't want to, say that I'm looking forward to one more than the other because I don't think that's fair to the panelists. Obviously, I'm really excited for the guest panels, but I can't announce who they are quite yet. But I just want to see how people receive the event. I want to see how the Discord goes. We're trying something that is very experimental. I haven't seen it done a lot. We're not the first people to do it. I want to make that clear. But we have an online dealers room that we're setting up. And that is kind of weird.
It's like a trade hall?
I mean, it's we're just calling it dealers room because that's the word that we've all agreed upon over the years. But it's really a directory for people to talk to these artists and talk to these dealers. And that is what my friend Tony's in charge of. He's speaking to, God, last I checked, it was over 40 artists and vendors.
Wow.
Independent artists and independent vendors. And so people will be able to go into our Discord, talk to these people about what they're selling, and presumably make a transaction, assuming everybody likes what they're selling.
That's a good point to bring up, actually, because among our staff, if we can call it that, we have a balloon magician, we have a Pokemon horror expert / musician. Like, is there still opportunities for people to submit for the dealers hall or anything like that?
You can. We're going to be closing that on Friday because it's getting to be too big. I don't want to overwhelm people and put like 200 things in the Discord.
Yeah.
The way that it seemed to settle down, I think that there'll probably be around 50 options for people, which is still a very, very large number. But I trust Tony to make the right call on who actually gets approved and whatnot.
Okay,
yeah.
That's cool.
Excellent. Now, sorry, you go on there, Dar.
No, sorry, go King, go for it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you can't tell us about the guests yet because that's going to be announced on Friday. But how was the experience of finding the guests? Did you approach them yourself, or did they reach out to you because of the con? Did you have you met anyone that you were especially fond of? What was that process like?
It's been a little bit of both. So I really only reached out to one person, and it was an experiment. Because we're tiny. It's not going to, if everything goes as planned and everything runs smoothly and all the panelists show up, it's not going to seem like this was a con run by 3 dorks. It's going to seem bigger than it is. I think, because it's just the types of guests that we have it blows my mind, and most of them reached out to me first.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow, that must have been incredibly humbling.
It was incredibly terrifying.
Oh. That's incredible. It seems like this is a very fluid situation still. And what's the your social media is on point. Like, it's fantastic. When are we going to be able to see hard timetables or anything like that? As far as is this going to be after you announce everything on Friday? Is that when
I want to post so the plan that I have right now is to post the schedule grid. I'm sure many people are familiar with that. It's part of the panel book. That's just a Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm going to post that first.
Right.
But then on Wednesday, that is when I plan to post the actual panel guidebook, which is going to be, a guidebook. It's like a magazine. It's going to have descriptions. It's going to have panelist contact information, descriptions of the guests. It's going to list all of the dealers and how to get a hold of them. But people will know what panels to expect before then.
And I have a follow up on that as well. Sure. As far as your stream, so from my understanding of it, it's one continuous stream. It's not like when you go to a panel, you go to a con, and there's different rooms or whatever. It's just there's going to be one stream which will be broadcast on different streaming platforms, and that's your one-stop shop, right? Okay.
Yes, and it's because I wanted to simplify things.
Yeah, it makes sense.
The setup I have is complicated, to say the least. It even confuses my fellow audio engineers. And to
You're
have
preaching
more
to the
than
choir. You're preaching to the choir. I know. I know.
to have more than one would be cost prohibitive, and I don't know who would be able to run it.
Also, preaching to the choir. So it is what it is, but that's cool. It makes it better for ease of thing. But I was just kind of wondering, I'm like, how similar to cons actually is it, as far in that way where stuff is all over the place? So to have it in one area.
As much as it can be. So the plan is to have a half hour after every panel of a break, and that's one for my own sanity, but also so people have time to look at the dealers, to chat with each other, to share their cosplay on our Discord,
Very
or
cool.
to use the bathroom or make a sandwich. It would be impossible to do back to back to back to back.
We completely understand that. We had to take a break in this very episode to go boil a kettle. So we are very much tea breaks,
Exactly. So for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with it or aren't sold, when are things kicking off? And there's no cost. This is 100% free, right?
100% free. I'm not accepting any tips or donations. I don't want your money. Period. If anybody does ask for money, it's going to be a dealer for what they're selling.
That's
the con
amazing.
itself,
Fair
no
play.
money.
That's so great.
That's awesome, dude. Really.
Well, even if I wanted to charge people, which is just kind of a personal thing that I'm against, how would I enforce that? It's a Twitch stream.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Fair point.
But I also, I don't think it's fair for me to profit off of everybody else's hard work. I think it's a little different when it's a live event because they have to pay for venue costs, they're paying guest appearance fees, all that kind of stuff.
There has to be like a return on investment that's gone into it.
Yeah, well, they have to be able to pay for the venue.
Yeah,
that's it. At least that,
So,
but still, I mean, irrespective of that, you have put an incredible amount of work into this, and I think that should be recognized.
I'm fine being mostly nameless. That's why I made it a separate account and didn't make it a part of my usual projects, because while this is really fun for me and I'm ostensibly achieving a lot of goals that I had a long time ago when I started blogging and doing podcasting, I wanted to make it about the community. I wanted to make it about the panelists. I didn't want to make this about, hey, and by the way, check out my SoundCloud. I
ring that bell.
I thought that would be tacky. Of course, panelists can promote, their own blogs, etc. I can't prohibit people from doing that, but I'm not promoting any of my own personal projects during this.
Well, there you go, guys. If you're listening, there's no excuse. Go over. It's free. There's nothing else to do during lockdown.
Yeah,
Come on.
it's May 1 through 3.
And what time's it kicking off at?
It's going to start, I have to figure out exactly when I want opening ceremonies to start, but the first panel is at 11 Eastern time, a.m. 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to end up turning the stream on a little early just to give people time to show up, and I'll probably pop on about a half hour before all of the programming starts, just to, I've got a lot of bullet points that I need to hit on. I also have a cool surprise for people that show up early, so.
Oh, that's tempting. And tell us, and on that note, actually, until this Twitch goes out on the 1st, where is the best place people can follow updates about the anime lockdown? Are you on Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of stuff?
Yep, I'm on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, you can add the Twitch now if you want. I'm just not streaming anything.
Okay.
It's Anime Lockdown on Twitch. I believe it's just /Anime Lockdown. It should be the same on Facebook, just /Anime Lockdown. The Twitter is the only weird one because Anime Lockdown was already taken by somebody. So it's Anna Lockdown Con.
Okay.
So I'm the most active on Twitter.
Yeah, their Twitter is very active. We'll leave links to everything in the description box of this video, and obviously in the description of the episode as well. So, John-Paul, I want to thank you so much for coming on, for your time. We're really looking forward to it. It's going to be something that we never thought we'd do this summer. So thank you very much again for having us part of it, and we appreciate you joining the show today.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Thank you for joining us live. Go over to Nerd to Know Media right now, nerdtoknowmedia.com, and get the rest of the show. Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. Check it out now. We'll see you next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.